What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Mets Central. And in today's video, we're going to go over and recap the Mets trade deadline, see who they acquired, how those guys are going to fit into the roster, what they gave up. I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on the trade deadline as a whole, and also how I feel about this team going into the final 2 months of the season and, potentially, getting a playoff spot and making it to the playoffs for the first time since 2022. But yeah, before we actually get into the video and the recap, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. We greatly appreciate you guys' support on the channel, and we want to keep feeding you guys content here on the channel. So yeah, just make sure you guys keep liking and subscribing, and also turn on your post notifications so you know anytime a video is uploaded or when we go live on the channel. So yeah, getting into the recap, the Mets didn't have an exactly busy day today, and they didn't acquire, the most, the biggest names or the most sexy names on the market. However, they did make three trades today. And when you look at it, like I said, wasn't anything sexy, wasn't anything big, but they did acquire three guys who could potentially help this team down the stretch heading towards the playoffs. So the three guys they did acquire today was Paul Blackburn, who's a starting pitcher from the Oakland Athletics, Tyler Zuber, a reliever from the Tampa Bay Rays, and Huskar Brazoban, a reliever from the Miami Marlins. And going over Paul Blackburn, so like I said, starting pitcher from the Oakland Athletics. When you take a look at his baseball savant page, nothing, it's not really like the greatest thing in the world. I mean, obviously you do see a lot of blues, a 4.41 ERA this year, expected ERA of 4.68. So, not really the greatest when you look at it. However, the one thing that does intrigue me is when you look at his savant page is the base on balls. He's 70th percentile in terms of walks, which is big considering this Mets starting rotation and bullpen and really the pitching as a whole. They do walk a lot of guys. So it is good to bring in a guy who doesn't, really walk a lot of guys. But when you really look at it, like I said before, baseline a 4.41 ERA, an ERA plus of 9.1, a FIP of 4.59, a WHIP of 1.157. So it really doesn't jump off the page as great pitcher, but they are bringing him in here as a depth starter. He's going to be your four as a five. Essentially, he's going to be replacing Tyler McGill as the fifth man in the rotation. So when I look at it, like you say, yeah, is it the greatest thing in the world? No, but if he's going to come here, he's going to eat innings. He's going to give you, reliable starts. You take that all day. And when you look at, who they gave up in this trade, they gave up Cade Morris, a pitcher who was ranked number 27 in the Mets farm system. So they really didn't give up anything much of significance in this trade. And that's really, the same that's really the same constant when you look at all the other trades that the Mets did make this trade deadline, or even a couple of the trades they did make before the trade deadline. They really didn't give up anything of significant value, which is really good, especially since, you're not going after one of the big guys. So, you don't really want to go up a haul for someone who is, just an overall depth piece. Moving on to the second guy that they acquired, Huskar Brazoban, like I mentioned, a reliever from the Miami Marlins. You take a look at his baseball savant page, right? And you see a lot of things like a lot of red. Baseline numbers, decent. This year, a 2.93 ERA. You take a look at his baseball reference page, and this is what you really like. So, like I mentioned before, a base ERA of 2.93. He's pitched 30.2 innings so far this year. An ERA plus a 150, which you really like, a FIP of 2.63, and a WHIP of 1.011. You take a look at his hits per nine, 5.9, home runs per nine, 0.3, base walks per nine, 3.2, and strikeouts per nine at a 10. So a really solid add to the bullpen. And, you know, I know the Mets right now, they do have a lot of guys that are out right now in terms of the bullpen. For example, Reed Garrett and Dednell Nunez. But Huskar Brazoban is a guy who pitched very well for the Marlins, and he could be, a very good replacement in this bullpen. For example, a guy like Adam Ottavino, who, like, let's not beat around the bush this year. Adam Ottavino has not been good, and he has not been good in, forget even high leverage situations. He hasn't been good in any leverage situation, whether it be low leverage, medium leverage, high leverage. Adam Ottavino just cannot be in this bullpen anymore. And if Huskar Brazoban is going to be the guy to replace him, then I think David Stearns did a really good job with this pickup. Especially when you take a look at the other guys, the other relievers that were traded uh, at this trade deadline. A lot of teams that they give up hauls. I mean, I know Tanner Scott was arguably the best reliever on the market this trade deadline, and the San Diego Padres gave up a lot to bring him in. And then you look at a couple other guys, teams had to overpay for them. It was a seller's market this year, but yeah, Brazoban, I do like it, and the guy that they gave up for Brazoban was 35th overall in the Mets farm system. Wilfredo Lara, pretty sure take a look at his page. Yeah, he played at high A level, third baseman. Wasn't really impressive in the minors. 244 batting average, 4 home runs, 29 RBIs, 692 OPS. So nothing really great there. Obviously, you never know. He could turn into a good player down the line. But as far as I'm concerned, David Stearns did a very good job with this deal. Got a very good relief pitcher for not much. Then moving on to the third guy the Mets acquired, Tyler Zuber from the Tampa Bay Rays. Not really a lot to talk about with Zuber. He hasn't pitched a lot this year for the Rays. He's only pitched in 2 games. He's only given them 3.1 innings, so a very small sample size. He was decent in the minors for the Rays. Let's see if I could pull up his page. But also a guy in Zuber who they gave up. They didn't give up a lot either. You take a look at who the Mets gave up for that. They gave up Paul Gervais, who was ranked number 34 in their farm system. So again, not much they gave up there. Let's see if I can pull up. Give me 1 second, guys. I can't find it. Okay, but anyway, yeah, Zuber did pitch pretty well in the minors for the Tampa Bay Rays this year with Bull Durham, I believe, as a AAA affiliate. But yeah, that was just a quick recap of the guys that they did give up. Like I mentioned before, they didn't give up a lot, and like I also mentioned before, that was pretty much a constant with everybody who the Mets acquired this year at the deadline. Like for example, even before the trade deadline, Phil Maton, they give a player to be named later or cash. Paul Blackburn, like I mentioned, Cade Morris, number 27 in their farm system. Zuber, number 34 in their farm system. Jesse Winker, they give up Tyler Stewart, who was number 19th in their farm system. And for Brazoban, Wilfredo Lara, who was number 35. And Ryan Stanek, they gave up number 42, Rylan Thomas, in their farm system. So, like I said before, they didn't really give up anything of significance in that trade, in these trades that they made. And if overall, I'm going to give my assessment of the trade deadline and how I like it, I'm going to give it a B minus. I thought Stearns, like I mentioned before, he did a good job with acquiring depth pieces while not overpaying for them, which is obviously like the only thing that brings down my grading is, obviously with the Mets injuries to their starters and Senga and Scott, especially Senga, we really wanted, if we were going to lose him like we did, we would have really wanted him to replace him with a big time starter. The Mets didn't get that. Now, no, I'm not going to kill David Stearns for that because at the end of the day, it did depend on what the market was dictating with those guys. Obviously, we saw Blake Snell was made available, and the Giants, on top of wanting a team to take on the money, they did want a solid prospect return. I don't know what that was. What did David Stearns think that overpaying for a guy like Blake Snell was? I don't know. There was also guys like Tariq Skubal who, you know, we heard were available for the right price. So probably the Tigers weren't really shopping him. They were pretty much saying like, listen, if you give us a good enough offer, we will accept an offer for Tariq Skubal. So listen, I would have liked Tariq Skubal, especially since he does have another 2 years of control, but the Mets didn't make that trade. And look, I mean, if he is available in the offseason, Tariq Skubal, and the Mets and David Stearns are, comfortable with maybe giving up guys like an Acuna or a Drew Gilbert in the offseason, I do fully expect the Mets to go after a guy like Skubal in the offseason. And again, you really like Skubal because one, he's a good young pitcher, he's 27 years old, and he's still got years control under him. So yeah, now when you pretty much you look at the bullpen, right? And obviously, all the guys that were acquired today were starters. But when you look at the bullpen options now after, the trades were conducted, once everyone is back at full strength, you're looking at a bullpen of Edwin Diaz, Dednell Nunez, Brazoban, Phil Maton, Ryan Stanek, Jose Budo, Reed Garrett, and Sean Reed Foley, which is a pretty good bullpen, like to all be considered. And then even when we look at it, I know before the game, David Stearns did a pregame he had a pregame talk with the media about the trade deadline, and reporters were asking him about Jose Budo and potentially will he moving back to the starting rotation. And David Stern said, "Well, that is an option right now. They are focused on him as a bullpen option, but just in case, maybe if they do get another injury to a starting pitcher, which knock on wood that they don't, but if they do get another injury to a starter, I'm pretty sure we will see Jose Budo jump into the starting rotation." And going into the playoffs, you're not really going to run a 5-man rotation, right? So guys will go from the rotation to the bullpen for the playoffs. And two guys that we're looking at, Tyler McGill and David Peterson could make their way into the Mets bullpen. Obviously, David Peterson, lefties are very valuable in a bullpen, so he could easily slide into the bullpen, and Tyler McGill could slide into the bullpen as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Mets do with their bullpen down the line as guys start to come back healthy, like Reed Garrett and Dednell Nunez. But I'm pretty optimistic with this bullpen because Phil Maton has been decent. Obviously, Ryan Stanek had that shaky first outing with the Mets against the Braves where he gave up the 2 home runs, but in his last outing against Minnesota Twins, he had a very nice bounce back recovery outing. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And obviously another thing that the Mets didn't do, which they could have done, which they could have added another bat. Like I mentioned before, they did add Jesse Winker, but they really could have added another bat. I know on the podcast we did discuss Brendan Lauer's potential option as a big time bat, playoff experience as well, and a guy who could play second base and the outfield. But the Mets didn't add another bat. They went all pitchers today, and yeah, I mean, look, now heading towards the final 2 months of the season, like I'm pretty confident in this Mets team. Like I do think they will make the playoffs at the end of the day. Will the additions be enough? That is the one question I do have because right now when I look at it, like the lineup, I do like. They can hit home runs, they can score runs. They do have their off nights occasionally, but I'm not really concerned about this offense and this lineup. The bullpen, we have to see, with the moves, how they pan out and how they affect the bullpen. But if, like I read you out with the names of the bullpen, that bullpen looks a hell of a lot better than we've seen, lately in the last couple weeks with the injuries. The one thing that could hold this Mets team back, though, is the starting rotation. Because while you like Sevy, Senga's out, Scott's out for now. We'll see how he does hopefully when he comes back from his injury. You have Minaya, you have Quintana, you have guys like that. I don't know if that will be enough for the rotation. Obviously, Budo is a possibility to come into the rotation. Maybe even if they call up a guy like Sproat and put Sproat in the starting rotation, keep Budo in the bullpen, or maybe even move Budo to the rotation and call up Sprout and move him into the bullpen. So Stearns, like he mentioned before in his pregame presser, he did say that he's going to have a lot of discussions with the front office, about how they're going to arrange this bullpen and how they're going to order it. So, yeah. So, like I said before, if I'd give it an overall grade, B minus. They got good depth pieces. They didn't pay a lot, and they didn't get the sexy name, the big time, ace caliber pitcher, but they got good depth guys. So, yeah, that's pretty much the trade deadline recap. I hope you guys, enjoyed the video. Like I mentioned before, make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we're gonna keep feeding you guys content here on the channel for the rest of the season. And hopefully the Mets, they keep pushing on strong, and hopefully they make the playoffs. But anyway, guys, that is the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said before, leave a like and subscribe. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace.